Nassaumen Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the Hockey Writers.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to episode 38 of the Nassaumen Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the Hockey Writers Podcasting Network. I'm James Nichols, and as always, I'm here with my good buddy, John Zello. What's up, pal?
Not a whole lot. It is winter here.
Yeah.
It is cold. If you're watching on YouTube, I have my my fisherman Captain Highliner beanie on and a hoodie because it is friggin' cold.
Hey, are you getting snow tomorrow? Because we are over here.
It's so it's funny you say that because I'm looking. Something just popped up on one of my feeds and it said that we were getting like a foot of snow.
Yeah, we're getting like
in Syracuse
between 8 and 15. They said inches.
Yeah, it's weird. Since I've lived up here, we get like 130 something inches every year, but you guys, like the Long Island metro area in New York City, has gotten way worse one hit storms. You know what I mean? Like you've gotten like 2 feet. It snows here like 3 inches every day from December 15th through Mother's Day. But you guys are getting like 2 feet at a time. There was a couple of huge storms since I've lived here that have not necessarily been up here.
Yeah. Dress warm, guys. It's going to be, it's not even winter yet. You know, technically the winter solstice is the 21st of December, right?
I want to say the 21st. Here, it's seriously, it snows before Halloween most years. This was a very weird year that we didn't have snow and it was like kind of warm for Thanksgiving.
Yeah. All right. Before we get into the episode today, we just want to say happy holidays, everybody. The holiday season is upon us, and we hope that you and your families enjoy as best as you can during these ongoing, ever-going, uncertain times. I know for me this year, Christmas is like, is anybody coming over this year? And we're like, I don't know. Who knows? It's only 10 days away, so I guess we'll figure it out eventually.
I forgot. Like I was thinking this morning, I'm like, is Christmas next weekend?
Right.
And I honestly had no idea. I was like, what is today's date? Because I have other things going on between now and then. And I was like, I could not believe that it was next weekend already.
Yep. It's already next week. So, you guys won't be hearing from us next week. So we hope that you guys have a great holiday. For those celebrating Hanukkah, that's happening right now. So happy Hanukkah. And any other holidays we might not have mentioned, we hope you enjoy. But let's get a little bit into the NHL, around the NHL, and talk about some of the news that we got in the past couple of days. So January 13th is a go. The 56 game schedule is a go, and we got a breakup of a couple new divisions. It's not called the Metro right now, the Atlantic, none of that. The Islanders are in the quote-unquote East Division, but we will talk more about that later. But the divisions are almost set. Some teams may be switched from one division to another. Namely, they said Dallas might switch or Minnesota might switch. They're trying to figure some things out. Nothing is set in stone yet. All-Canadian division is, and I believe the East Division is set in stone. It's just those other 2 divisions that they're going to negotiate where, maybe what best travel would be for those teams to see, how to contain COVID the best that they can. So right now, nothing is set in stone except for those 2 divisions, the start date, and the number of games.
I believe it's all a target date right now.
Right.
I don't know that. I think that's what they're shooting for. A lot of things can change.
Always.
Still got to get players back from Europe. You got to get guys into Canada. You got to get guys back into the States with their teams if they're not already.
Yeah.
If they were training in Toronto, like many players do, I don't know what kind of problems. That's a 2-week period. So, I think we spoke about this in the Patreon a little bit, and if you are not signed up for that, definitely check it out. We do a newsletter every week. We kind of go in a little bit in depth on some things, and we get Joe Pantorno to write every week, and we have an amazing editor, so she makes sure that we don't mess up too bad. So that it's really cool. So check that out. But we did speak about that a little bit, and when training camps are going to start, and how much of a hiccup that can be. There's also still, I think, conversation about non-playoff teams getting a head start. I don't remember exactly what's going on there. So there's some things, it's slowly getting dripped out.
Yeah.
They keep saying January 13th. It could change. I think there's some things between now and then. It's a little bit less than a month away. So that's a lot to do in not a lot of time. Hub cities, I don't think that's the thing that's going to happen. I believe I saw Justin Bourne tweet something out about that. So there is going to be a little bit of travel. And I'm honestly worried about that. I know we kind of joked about it a couple weeks ago with Joe in regard to the Denver Broncos quarterback situation.
Mhm.
I don't know how that's going to work. Like, I don't see, like, expanded rosters and the cap and all that kind of stuff is fine. What do you like? What if ours, like, your best guys? What if your best guys are going down
Yeah.
or your goalies? Like, I guess having 3 goalies is good, but if one guy has it, it's probably 2. So I don't know. There's only 3 of them.
I'm not exactly sure what the NBA is doing. I know that they have started their preseason at least right now. But I'd imagine they pretty much follow the same protocols. They follow suit with them because they pretty much play in the same atmospheres, the same environments. So, we'll have to look a little bit into what the NBA is doing. Maybe we'll tweet it out like this is a good idea, this is a bad idea. Not that our opinions matter on that because we're not making any decisions, but it's probably going to follow closely to what they're doing. That's what happened when this all started anyway. The NBA was the first to say we're shutting down our operations, and the NHL followed, suit as well. So I could imagine that it's pretty similar to or it's going to be pretty similar to what they're doing. Everything seems to be going okay over there for them right now. I don't know if in the NFL it's been moderate. It was worse in the beginning. It's not as bad now.
I haven't heard very much in
Yeah.
negative at this point.
Right. So I think the last major postponement was there was a game that was supposed to be played on Thanksgiving actually, and they had to postpone that one. But I don't think anything since. So,
but even individual players, like, you just worry about, like, there's team chemistry and there's guys and thinking about all this, and I guess not knowing what the roster sizes are going to be, and maybe they expand it a little bit or whatever the case is, and how you get guys. That might be why guys like Josh Hosang, as far as the Islanders are concerned, we're qualified and
Yeah.
kind of brought back. You don't know what you don't know yet.
Yeah.
And you kind of, if there are guys that want to be around the team, pay them a few extra dollars just to have them. Again, that was Corey Schneider. I think he's a good pickup anyway, not knowing what you have in Sorokin, but
Right.
it makes it twice as good of a decision thinking, okay, God forbid something happens. At least the guy's played NHL games before.
Right.
If the wheels just come off for some reason, he's got something to prove. He can come in, new franchise, Mitch Korn, blah, blah, blah. Pierre Greco. We've seen what could happen. He's got some miles on him and he's got some bad, joints and stuff in the lower body, but, I kind of understand those moves a little bit more and why they're waiting to see what do we do if they're expanding,
Right.
if we can just keep them around on AHL deals and their taxi squad, whatever the deal is. It's just concerning to me, especially those teams that don't have the cap.
Right.
Sure, you can expand the roster all you want, but if you have no money to spend, you have 3 open spots. Now, if there's a taxi squad with AHL, which is, we have news on that in 1 second, there's still a lot up in the air. I think the hard stuff is not out yet, which is why things are trickling out.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the AHL, Corey Pronman tweeted recently that he was hearing that the AHL's current target is a 44-game schedule from the previously announced February 5th date, running through May 30th, with games being played only within their division, of which there will be 5 due to an all-Canadian division. So we'll see what happens with that. Interestingly, right before we hit record, I scrolling through Twitter and I saw that the WHL also just announced it's postponing its January 8th start date. So no new date was set yet, and I guess we'll see where this goes. But it's interesting that it's just 5 days before the NHL start date. So I'm wondering what that's all about. They said looking into some public health records and stuff like that. They decided that this was a good idea. So they're going to, get back to the drawing board and, talk about what's the best plan of action moving forward to start their season. So a lot of a lot of uncertainty moving forward. Something I've always been uncertain about, and I'm a little more understanding nowadays about why they might do this, is ads on helmets. This is something that's come up recently in talking about how to create more revenue for the teams, right? The NHL heavily relies on its money coming from the fans. And right now, that's just not happening with nobody going to games. It's not going to happen for the near future. Maybe halfway through the season, they might start to try to introduce fans going back. But as of right now, it's looking like at least the start of the season, there's not going to be anyone other than the players and the coaches and the staff in the building. That's really it. But ads on helmets continues to be a topic of discussion. And according to Elliot Friedman and Jeff Marek, the need for revenue on both sides, the players and owners, is huge. And if there aren't going to be any fans, this is a good way to get that money coming in. And I know a couple of companies had some fun with it on Twitter when they heard about it, and they were like, "Oh, this looks like it would look good here." I think Spit and Chicklets put a pink Whitney on Crosby's helmet. They photoshopped one there, and I don't know. My thoughts on it are, I get it. I never wanted ads on jerseys or on helmets or anything like that, but in this situation, if it's just going to be a for now kind of thing, which I can't see that happening, but I'll talk about that later. Once they start, I don't think they're going to stop. They can do this tastefully, and it shouldn't ever get anywhere near what it looks like overseas, where they have literally every inch of a jersey, shin guard, pants. There's ads everywhere. They can do this so tastefully where it's, I prefer it not even on the front of the helmet. If it's on the back of the helmet, great. But I'm sure they're going to put it on the front, because if a player is doing a post-game interview, that's what you're going to see. You're not going to see the back of their head, so I get it. But they could do this tastefully. Don't make it look cheesy. Don't make it look... I don't even love the way the NBA does it. Having it on the corner of the jersey, it bothers me. It really does. I think a jersey should be clean, and that makes it a little dirty.
I think looking at it, there's like a certain aesthetic. Like I guess I kind of understand that. I think from our generation, I was thinking about this because ultimately what they're trying to do is the kind of like hockey related revenue that they split, the owners and the players split. They need more of it.
Right.
The players are kind of pushing off a payment for a few years, which means the next CBA is going to be a disaster of a fight, from what I gather. Now, if I'm a younger player now who's going to be in the league in 6 or 7 years, I'm probably fighting for things like that right now, because I want to make sure that my payment in the future is as little as it's possible. If you're not going to be in the league in 3 years, what do you care? It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect your paycheck, or your future financial situation. So what do you care? Yeah, don't put ads on helmets. That looks dumb. So, but if I'm a younger player, that's probably something that, as much as it would definitely change things on the jerseys, or again, if it's a patch or a sticker on a helmet or something, I kind of get it. I'm kind of, I started thinking about if you were born in when you started remembering hockey, and maybe we're a little too young, but maybe if you were born in the 80s, I was born in 1990, so late 80s, early 90s, you've missed a lot of hockey because of this stuff, because of the dollars and cents of it. I'll take watching hockey with ads on jerseys and helmets over not watching hockey. We've missed so much. This is a different situation. This is going to be a 56 game season because of the pandemic. But 2013 was a half a season. 2004 we missed a season. Didn't we? There was another one more recently than that. No, we were close. There were literally so many I can't even keep track of them.
So that's
there's the half a season point. 94.
Yeah.
So 94, 95, there was the strike. If I'm not mistaken, in 92, maybe there was even another situation that may have been baseball. I'm pretty sure hockey had another thing early. That's a lot of, in 30 years, that's 4 or 5 seasons. That's a lot. That's a
Well,
lot
I was
for
gonna
fans
say,
to stick around. Like, it's not necessarily just millionaires versus billionaires and that argument that I hear made. The fans are the ones that, we keep coming back, but they got to figure it out. This isn't happening in other sports.
yeah,
They're having better discussions.
I feel like the lockout is a constant blackmail that the league is dangling over everyone's heads all the time. I'm always like, all right, yeah, we got past this CBA. That's great. We'll handle it in the next couple of years when they're sure to start talking about lockouts again. So I don't know. It would just be nice to feel comfortable about how much longer I get to watch hockey before they have to start talking about, oh, well, we're going to go on strike again. I mean, I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, it's a strike or it's a lockout. So I
Yeah,
was right. So
yeah.
the 92 season, they had, I don't remember. They used to have, at some point there were 84 games on NHL schedule. I can't remember exactly when that was. But they postponed 30 games. 94, they had a 48 game. 94, 95, the season after the Rangers won the cup, when the Devils won the cup, they did it in 48 games. No 04, 05. And then half a season in 2013, 12, 13.
Right.
That's a lot of hockey that, we talk about,
Right.
guys like Yager, where you just miss so much time, and he could have maybe beaten a bunch of more records, especially if he didn't go overseas, but you missed a lot of hockey.
Right.
You missed two full, at least 2 full seasons, 2.5 full seasons just on lockouts. And as a fan, I get really frustrated at that. So if there's a way for them to figure it out so that there isn't just this, like, the second this was done and they moved forward a week ago, the conversation moved to, well, in 6 or 7 years, here's the argument. It's like, can we just stop?
When was the last time there was a strike in the MLB or a lockout in the MLB?
It's a good question. I haven't heard it in the NBA. In Major League Baseball, there have been,
but not.
And I believe it was a strike. There were strikes and lockouts. The most recent one was 94, 95.
Okay, so
and that was a strike. It wasn't even a lockout,
right.
But they had their fair share, it looks like, as well.
But the NHL has had 2 since they've had their last one. So 3 total, because they also had one in 1994 and then 2 after that. So It's like, enough is enough. Like, come on.
I wonder, this last fight, I was, I forget what I was listening to last Sunday or 2 weeks ago or something, and about Gary Bettman and his fight, like the most recent one, like kind of asking players to not renegotiate, but also renegotiate. People were saying his heart wasn't in it because he knew that he just couldn't do it. And this wasn't going to be the fight that he, eventually, look, I think what he's telling the players is, look, if you want to kick this can down the road, that's up to you. We're saying we could redo it, based on what we know now, versus maybe a few months ago, which I don't know how much different it really was forecasting. I also don't own a business, but I don't know. I thought it wasn't going to improve, but I don't run anything. So I don't know why the NHL, thought they were just going to be immune to this thing. I don't know. I don't know what they thought. Maybe they had bad information.
Right.
It's entirely possible. But, on a certain, from a certain perspective, I kind of understand where they're like, look, all right, you're going to pay it one way or another, whether it's right now and it's deferred, whatever the case is, you're on the hook for this. So one way or another.
The focus should be on how to grow the game, right? And that's been something that, the general public has been talking about, not just hockey, in all facets of life. We live in this generation where people are constantly saying we need to grow the blank, right? And in our field, what we talk about in regards to the NHL, people are constantly talking about growing the game. And I agree, they need to grow the game. And part of that needs to be establishing security. Fans shouldn't have to feel like, after a couple of seasons, are they going to go into a lockout again? Are they going to,
like I said, it was the
strike again?
It was literally the end of a conversation about like, all right, so they just avoided a big argument right now.
Right.
And
Right.
then, it's going to happen in 6 or 7 years. So buckle up.
Right.
And this, I think, maybe to your point, and just to be a little more specific, those, the Sun Belt, so like Arizona's and maybe the Florida Panthers, and to not have that consistency and be able to have fans around and all that kind of stuff, it really hurts those franchises. It really hurts those
Yep.
franchises. So that's a real problem there, and that's not going to grow the game.
Right.
Right now is a little, obviously different, but it makes a huge difference when there's all these stoppages and there's bad press around it. And
Right.
I think the game has grown. Revenue is up. Gary Bettman, in a lot of respects, is doing a good job. His relationship with the players and the fans and that PR, they've done a terrible job on that front. And I think the fans side with the players most of the time. So that's kind of the issue. So yeah, I hope it doesn't come to that. I really don't want to have to continue to hear these conversations over the years, and as we count down toward the next CBA and this kind of whatever. And then and there's current cap issues that they were trying to nail down right now too. They're trying to get, I think, the salary cap to go up $500,000. I don't really think any of that's nailed down yet, though.
Okay. I mean, it's not worth it. It's not worth talking about any further, just because we have no control over it. And
it's just a pain.
It would be nice
to worry about like your sport, and
yeah, I know.
Like,
it would be nice
it's not
if
a thing that just happens. Like, it should just be very like perennial. Like, I don't have to worry about it. Like, yeah, unless it's a pandemic, it's gonna happen, and people are cordial and will work it out, and not be Gary Bettman and be like, nope, we're just gonna close.
Let's hope we never have to worry about a pandemic again, right?
Right.
On a more positive note, speaking of growing the game, the Florida Panthers are rolling out this new department within their organization called the Goaltending of Excellence Department. It is the first of its kind in the NHL. And it sounds really interesting. It had been compared to what Major League Baseball it does in terms of what they do for pitching and developing their pitchers. That's straight from Pierre LeBrun's recent article on this goaltending of excellence with the Florida Panthers. So that's super interesting to me right off the bat. They're trying to grow the game here, and they're trying to invest in what some people think is the most important position in hockey, and that's goaltending. The cool thing about this is that Roberto Luongo is the special advisor to the general manager and will oversee the department. Also on staff is Francois Allaire. Thank you. I don't know why I drew that blank. And I said it to you like 6 times off air, but go me. But Francois Allaire is a very well-respected goaltending coach around the NHL. His brother Benoit is working right now currently with the New York Rangers. So he's got a little bit of influence on, Igor Shesterkin and Georgiev. So and we see, how good they are. So this seems like it's going to be a very good program for Florida, and it's probably something that we're going to see league wide soon. But the idea
with Florida, how much money are they spending on goaltending now? With all these coaches coming in and this, and Bobrovsky alone, isn't he at like 10.5?
So I don't know if this is maybe why they decided this is a good idea. They don't want to have to do what they did with Bobrovsky, probably, right?
Well, they got to fix him. The first reclamation project should be trying to figure out what the hell's going on between the years, or whatever's going on with
right. So first things first, what comes to mind for me is Spencer Knight, right? They got this kid. They drafted him 2 years ago, I believe, or maybe in the Dobson draft, which I think is that 3 drafts ago. No matter. Spencer Knight, and he was a first round draft pick. He was I think 13th overall. He was very high for a goaltender. I think the first thing that they might want to do is make sure that kid gets developed. they don't want to have to go out in free agency and spend $10.5 million over a year over 8 years on a Sergei Bobrovsky, because now that contract's going to look pretty bad. It already kind of does, but add on another 7 years that he's got to, fulfill
Is
that
it 8
contract.
years?
It
or
was
is it 7?
Oh no, sorry, max 7 years. So he's got 6 more years. He's got 6 more years left on that contract, and he didn't have too great of a first season.
I mean, Florida's also not that good.
That's true.
It doesn't hurt. It doesn't help his cause that
That's
the
true.
team isn't good. But I know in the grant, I was thinking about it before when you brought it up. Maybe earlier today, something. I was thinking about it earlier, and I was like, man, they're on and off the ice. They're spending quite a bit of money just on goaltending, whether that's for the future or right now.
Yeah.
That's a lot. And who's the backup down there? Is it Markstrom?
No.
Why am I not remembering?
Markstrom's in Calgary. I'm not exactly sure who the backup is in Florida right now, because it's changed a couple of times. But they definitely, something needs to change within that organization, because it's been a long time for them since they've really won anything, right? They
96 they make it, or 97,
right,
96 97 they make it to, they play the Rangers in the late, maybe the second round,
right,
and that's with Gretzky.
Right.
It's a long time. The last time Florida Panthers won a playoff round, or at least made it anywhere, made some noise, Wayne Gretzky was still playing in the NHL.
So that's the thing. Something needs to change within that organization.
Well, no, that's a lie. I think they made it kind of far more recently than that. I'm exaggerating.
Regardless, though, they're not winning, right?
No.
Every year they're a question mark. They're on the cusp, or if they're not, that just means that they're not good again. So I guess the idea with this is to have one uniform vision, one philosophy, one plan of coverage throughout the organizations, from goalies top to bottom. So, and what that says to me is whatever, workouts, regiments, coaching styles that Sergei Bobrovsky is getting, well, Spencer Knight's also getting that in the OHL. So it sounds to me like the Florida Panthers are going to say, you have our property, to whoever owns Spencer Knight. I'm not sure which OHL team he's with, or CHL. This is what we want him to work on. This is what we want his focus to be on. And from top to bottom, they're all going to be coached and
well, over the summer, there's training, there's different things they can put
right,
on, nutrition. They can kind of set some things up for them,
right.
So
and listen, this sounds like a great idea, because, like I was saying before, something needs to change there, and they're starting it with the goaltending. We might see more things like this. I could definitely see that happening. Eventually it'll be defensemen of excellence and forwards of excellence. We'll see, but something within the Panthers organizations needs to change, and this is a good start, in my opinion. I think that this is a good idea. They need to really look in the mirror and say, all right, what can we do to really bring this organization out from the mud? Because before the pandemic hit, even in last season, they weren't bad. They weren't good, but they weren't bad, and they were barely selling 5,000 seats, 6,000 seats. Like that's not good.
So I was right. So they made it to the Stanley Cup final in '96 against the Avalanche, and then the next year they lost in the first round to Gretzky and the Rangers. So then they made the playoffs 3 times. So 4 times if you count the preliminary round. So not even. So 3 other times. They've had some good records.
Right.
They've played some good hockey, but it doesn't
amount to anything.
Yeah, it was kind of like Carolina for a while. Like they weren't.
Right.
They just couldn't really get it together, and
they've kind of changed.
Now they have a good group, and it's coaching and everything. They're a few pieces away too.
And they won. They've won before. 2006, they won the cup.
Yeah, it's a long time ago. They need to,
it's
something
more than what the Panthers can say.
Right. It's absolutely way more than the Panthers can say, and I think it's a lot like the Islanders, and we talked about this when they lost against the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I think we probably both wrote about it in one way or another. something Detroit did for a long time is they just knew how to win.
Yeah.
They had that culture. They had guys in the locker room. They knew how to get there. They knew what it felt like. They built on it year after year, and they were always in the mix one way or another.
They also got, and I'm not making excuses for anybody, but they did get extremely lucky with guys like Pavel Datsyuk in the 7th round of the NHL draft. I mean, drafting.
I mean, that's good.
Was
Ken
no-
Holland is doing a good job, and they had, as 96, 97, then the early 2000s, they win another cup, and they have those young guys there. And then
Yeah.
when everyone's retiring, Datsyuk and Zetterberg, people forget they were on some of those teams. So
Oh yeah, they were with the
07, 08,
Shanahans.
09 rolls around,
Yep.
and they're there, and then they're the guys.
Yep.
And it's kind of like building that culture. And I think that's what's really important on Long Island right now. And that's why having a guy like Dobson around this last season, and it's going into the playoffs
Yeah.
as long as they did,
You
it was
can't replace
really
that value.
good. That's amazing experience. And the Islanders, I kind of go back to, even though it's just Josh Bailey and Matt Martin at this point that are still around from that 2013 series with the Penguins, as far as I'm concerned, that momentum has been building since then.
Right.
And every year, those 2 100-point seasons in a row, 14, 15, 16, whatever that thing.
Right.
They get really disappointing season 17, 18. They lose Tavares, whatever. They come in with a chip on their shoulder, new management, new coaching, fresh kind of perspective on everything. And, they win that first series against the Penguins. They sweep them. They feel really good about themselves. Then they're humbled very quickly in Carolina. You can argue whatever you want to argue. They were humbled very quickly in Carolina. That's good. Right? They get stuck in the back. Tampa Bay had to go through the same thing.
Yeah.
Years of kind of getting kicked down a little bit, being humbled by certain experiences. Something that like San Jose just could never get over the hump.
Right.
There was something else that was tweeted that was interesting earlier today that, most playoff wins in the last 20 years, San Jose was second with some ridiculous number and 0 cups. It was
That's tough.
If you're not a San Jose fan, it was funny, but that's kind of, those teams do a really good job over time. It's just kind of like filling in, you have your core and you build around it.
And I
but
think
if you mess up that core, that's kind of like, I think Toronto, I don't know if that, that's the right thing. They spent way too much money on a few guys. And they, I think this is the best I'm a little worried about Toronto going into this year. They're going to be good.
We'll talk about
that.
What I like that you said though, right, which is when you referred to Dobson, that he stuck around for the year. You can't replace that value because when you look in the grand scheme of things, right? Well, this year, Johnny Boychuk was forced to retire. So if they sent him back to the CHL, or if he was, for argument's sake, eligible for the AHL and they sent him down, he wouldn't have been around Johnny Boychuk to learn from Johnny Boychuk, to, mold to the team. If you think Johnny Boychuk didn't have an influence on Noah Dobson, I'm not in the locker room. I have no idea. But I do know that Johnny Boychuk is a major locker room presence, and he's a major mentor for the young guys.
He's not modeling his game after Boychuk, but
no.
Influence.
Like his lifestyle, his
how he handles himself. He's a winner.
Exactly.
He's a Stanley Cup champion. He's a veteran.
Right.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think the fact that Boychuk he got a season with him, watch him how he prepared, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
And hopefully he's still with the team, and we'll also talk about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a learning experience. Those veteran guys, they're all in their late 20s, early 30s, and they have the window's not closing, but it's not open for that much longer. And it's important that they all kind of did this together. This is why, and I guess we're jumping ahead. I don't know. I'm not looking at the notes anymore because we're having a good conversation. But with Barzal, I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't know that I'm worried about him signing. It's just the number. I think they know.
I wouldn't even be surprised if he's already signed and they didn't officially announce it yet. Waiting for some sort of paper transaction, something. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a handshake agreement. I wouldn't be surprised if it's done. That's bottom line. And we just don't know about it yet.
This team is so close
Yeah.
He's been a big part of it the last 2 years. He knows he's the centerpiece of the team, which means he should get paid. I don't think anyone's saying that. And I think
Right.
if I'm Lou, or if I'm anybody that is paying anybody right now and trying to sign a contract, look, I know what things are worth in this thing.
Have
I
mercy,
wish I
please.
had it. I wish I had to give you. It just doesn't exist right now.
Right.
Bridge deal. He wants to be here with these guys.
Yeah.
He enjoys playing with this team, knowing that there's not going to be a big blow up, that is only going to be one or two guys interchanged here and there, whether it's on defense, a new goalie, crossing our fingers, Anthony Duclair. Knowing that it's not just going to be this massive turnover, kind of like Vegas, right? Where they keep, it's like 2 or 3 years and then guys are leaving, and they're important players.
Yeah.
You look, Vegas loses Nate Schmidt. They add the Pietrangelo, right?
Right.
They're a good team, but then they're going to trade Pacioretty. What are you going to get back to even that out? And there's only so many times that you can do that before that becomes a place where, okay, there's low taxes, but do I want to get traded in 2 or 3 years?
Right. Well,
where's the security in that?
They're only around for 3 seasons, right?
Right.
Their second season, they went out and they got Paul Stastny. They needed it. They needed some center depth. They had William Karlsson, but after that, it was like, who's who? They go out, they get Paul Stastny. Suddenly, it's like, okay, good 1-2 punch. A year later, now he's gone again. He's went back to Winnipeg. It's like, okay.
Well, that first season, it was like, we're a team, and they all kind of rallied together. And the tragedy that happened leading into the season, it was a very like Vegas strong thing, and it was amazing to watch. It was a great run.
Oh yeah.
But now I don't know. I think it's one of those things. But like, the Islanders don't necessarily have that problem. They have the arena on the horizon whenever we can get back to watch it. They have practice. Like, things are looking really good for the franchise, for things that, off the ice situation.
Mm-hmm.
Steady ownership. And, on top of that, the roster's steady. You got a GM that's, probably not going anywhere anytime soon, depending on what your version of soon is. And if I'm Barzal, I'm with the team. So you're probably right. There's probably a handshake agreement or something. But they have to wait. I think they're, if something goes up or down, and it's waiting on what Lamoriello can do.
I think something with, I don't know if the Boychuk money is cleared yet. I don't know if he's officially on LTIR, and they don't have.
I didn't see it on.
I don't think it's
Cap
done.
Friendly recently, so it still says they have 3.9 available.
Yeah,
and that doesn't account for, Ladd might be wherever he's going to be, and there, obviously there's still stuff going on.
Yeah. So it seems like a good time to move on to On the Island. And we'll talk a little bit about the Mark Parish story that was actually published by The Athletic recently. Did you read that? I
did, and it was heartbreaking, because I know that there are probably a lot of other hockey players throughout the professional ranks, and probably just people, to zoom out even more, that go through this.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. And, for a guy that I think we all, maybe our generation, we look to those early 2000s Islander teams, and they're really who we remember. I know we kind of get nostalgic about the early 90s, probably because we were just kids going to the rink. But when we were like fans, like really watching, the Jason Blakes and the Mark Parishes and the Sean Bates and all those guys, we really looked up to them, and it hurts to know that they hurt, and it's not a hero's fallen situation, but I'm glad he's okay. It sucks that he had to go through that. It's amazing that he had the people around him that he did, that were looking out for him. They had the patience to wait for him, to kind of be ready to do it. And get better for himself. So it's an amazing story. It's a little long, but it was good, and I hope it's an eye opener to anybody that might have someone in their life that might need help, and the patience that you need, as hard as that's going to be. And to also just remember that these guys are not indestructible.
As much as it completely stinks for guys like Mark to go through things like they've done. Um, and a couple of years ago, Robin Leonard. It's great now that they share this, just so that people who just might not be aware of something
Absolutely.
that they might be going through similarly, if they hear, wow, an NHL player went through something that I am going through right now, and this is what they did, let me try that. It's great that they have been brave enough to put this on a platform for millions of people to see, because listen, not everybody's a good person, and people can say horrible things and judge you based on stories like this, but that doesn't matter. The majority probably will or will back you and support you, and that's the part that really should be the focus, and that people who hopefully if they are going through the same thing can learn from. It's just
or if you're the person that needs to get somebody to help,
right.
And
Right.
I guess I've been lucky that I haven't needed to do that.
Yeah, me too. But
and I'm not on the receiving, I'm not on the receiving end of it. I'm not, I've not been involved in that kind of
right.
situation. I've worried about some people here and there, but it's a story. Yeah, I think on both sides of that equation, I think it's amazing, and you're right. It's good for you to just kind of be able
it's
to
good
read
for
that, and it's out in the open.
It's good for public eyes to see it and learn from it. And we'll leave it at that. On a brighter note, our favorite Long Island brewery, Oyster Bay Brewing Company, is now the official craft beer of not just the New York Islanders, but also the Connecticut Whale. That was some really cool news that I didn't expect to drop today. Or if you're listening to this tomorrow, it would be yesterday. But yeah, they're now the official partner of the Connecticut Whale of the NWHL. Some pretty fun banter back and forth between the Whale, the NWHL Twitter, and the Oyster Bay Brewing Twitter. It'll be a whaling good time and stuff. So that's super fun. Congratulations to them. We love them, and we're really happy to see them growing in a tough time right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's they want to support women's hockey, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I wonder how they did. I saw that, I was like, wow, they must be really making it through this, and that's awesome. That that they figured out how to manage the situation, and it's a great partnership. I wish it was a New York team, but there's Bridgeport, there's a connection there to Connecticut, so
yeah.
That it's cool with me. But yeah, great to support women's hockey.
Yeah, we tweeted from the podcast account, a Long Island Treasure doing some amazing work to promote women's hockey. Congratulations to both sides. And interestingly enough, former Connecticut Whale player Anya Packer just liked our tweet as we were talking about this. So cool little tidbit. Wow. Thank you, Anya. Really appreciate the support. It's great stuff. The Hockey News just put out some preseason power rankings, and the Islanders sit probably a little lower than you would have expected. Number 17. What do you think, John?
I thought so when I saw this pop up right before we hit record. I was trying to be the rational fan for a second, or whatever, objective person in looking at this. When you look at that other side, and we'll Rob Taub tweeted the graphic, and we'll probably share it later, so you'll see it Wednesday or whatever. There are good teams on that 1 through 16.
There are.
Like it's kind of, I don't know who you take out. Are they better than when, like, I don't know how they do this either, because I didn't there's no article with it, but like, are they better than Winnipeg? I think they're better than Columbus, so like you could probably switch them out. Columbus is at 15. How they're ahead of Winnipeg is amazing. But they made some noise against Tampa Bay, but I mean the Islanders, everyone said that the Islanders gave Tampa Bay the hardest time. So to have the Islanders as far back as they are, I would just have them in the top 50%. I don't really care if they were 16. It would not hurt my feelings that they were number 16. I understand Winnipeg is really good. They haven't performed. They have issues on defense, but they have Connor Hellebuck. They have an amazing first line. They have line A for now. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know if he gets traded at whatever the trade deadline is going to be in this shortened season. If, everything kind of plays out. Maybe Edmonton at 12. I'm just kind of noticing that. That's a joke. So like, Columbus is good. They're good. So like I kind of understand that. But maybe Edmonton you switch out and have the Islanders again, even at 16. I'm fine with that. What do you think?
Am I surprised that they're 17th on the list? No, because every year we seemingly do this since we lost to Bears, right? Constantly us against the world, constantly prove them wrong, and we consistently do. We prove them wrong, prove them wrong, prove them wrong. The Islanders are not going to be any good. They just lost John Tavares, 103 points. They can't possibly do it again. Advance in the playoffs. All right, strike three, you're out. Eastern Conference Finals, forget it. They prove them wrong every single year, dude. It happens every year. So are we right where we want them? Yeah, we are.
I'm not surprised. I think this is you're absolutely right. We keep doing this. That's why Prove Me Wrong has been, now the mantra of the team. But I mean, like Philly at 5. All right, they brought the Islanders to 7, but they lost. I don't care what you have on paper. You lost.
Right.
How are you at number 5, first of all? And then the Islanders at 17. Like, how do you, if you're the Hockey News, how do you make that work? I don't know how to rank.
Again,
I'll be perfectly honest. I don't know what that looks like, what that equation is, what they're,
exactly
on paper. A lot of teams are better than the Islanders on paper.
Right. So they're likely basing it based on what they've done so far this offseason, who they've gained, who they've lost, yada, yada. The Islanders didn't really lose. I shouldn't say too much. They lost Taves, they lost Boychuk, right?
I think it's really big. I mean, that's a good
big
point.
It is. They lost Taves, they lost Dobson. They added Sorokin, who, look, the consensus is he's an upgrade to Grice. We still need to find out. It's not.
Yeah, but how many extra wins do we get with Sorokin?
I don't know.
And I think that's the question. So
I just wrote an article.
It's a handful of wins or it evens out, right? You lose a guy like Taves who provided some offense, and Boychuk who eats pucks for breakfast in the defensive end, and you add Sorokin. Maybe it's a wash as far as goals against, if that's the stat you want to use. Like it might be fine, but
maybe
as far as the wins are concerned, I don't know how, because he's not playing every game. Those other guys play every game.
The thing is, and I just wrote an article on Sorokin, so he's fresh in my mind too. We'll talk about that later. Regardless, I'm looking at this list. Washington is 7th. Well, we just swept them.
Was it a sweep? Or was it 4-1?
You're right, 4-1. Sorry,
or something like that.
Whatever.
It was
a 5-game series. We were
up 3-0. I do remember
that. And we won in convincing fashion. Philadelphia beat them. Edmonton, like you said, that's a joke. Columbus, I think we're better than them. And then it's us. You can argue we're better than Calgary, because Calgary, they have some star power, but they don't know which way is up. They win. There was a game that they lost in the playoffs. They were winning 5-0 or 6 something. They had some absurd lead. They blew it. Milan Lucic dropped the mitts after who were they playing? I think it might have been the Jets. It doesn't matter. They were winning by a substantial amount. They wound up blowing a large lead. I don't take too much stock in this list. I'm not sitting here and I'm saying they should be higher. I'm not sitting here and saying they should be lower. I'm sitting here and I'm saying this happens to us every year. And I'm not worried that they were slotted in at 17th by the Hockey News, because it's happened so many times before. And out of all 16 coaches ahead of the Islanders on this list. Barry Trotz is the one I would want to have behind the bench. And we've said it before. I probably say this once a week when we do this. He just knows how to get the best out of his guys.
I mean, I think
He
what
will.
worries me is, and I've said this before, it's one of the reasons why I think that the Islanders can really make some noise this year, because in 56 games, they're a streaky team.
Right.
So they can, but it also goes the other way. And that's kind of the problem, is that they kind of are asleep for chunks of time, even under Trotz. And he's admitted that too. And it happened right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Now, injuries pile up and that kind of thing. And it's something that we have to think about. Guys might be out for 2 weeks with this. They might get sick. They might have an exposure on something
Right.
in an airport. Who knows? So that's kind of my issue, is it's one way or the other. You kind of hope that they fall asleep, the first 10 games, streak their way through, maybe a little bit more than 10 games, streak their way through the playoffs like they did this year, right? They had their streaks early in the season, the 17 games, and then the playoffs.
Yep.
So he presses the right buttons, but sometimes the guys don't respond. So you kind of have to find ways. That's going to be it. It's going to be finding the creative ways to win. They do that most of the time, but they get in these funks, and that's shaking them out of it. Trotz hasn't successfully done that yet, and there's going to be a time where they just run out of time.
There's a major factor here that we haven't mentioned, though, that makes them that much deeper this year. And I understand that the two defensemen that we lost, in my opinion, Boychuk probably, if he was not retiring, was not going to play much this year anyway, because I do think that this was Noah Dobson's time. And I think that, maybe it wouldn't have been Boychuk, it would have been somebody else. But don't get me wrong, he was incredible, and I loved having him, and I hated seeing him have to force a decision he didn't want to make. That being said, I don't think that him not being on the ice is a huge loss. It's a major loss in the locker room. It's a major morale loss for a short time, but I think they'll figure out a way to keep him around that it won't hurt as much as we initially think it might.
Right.
I just think that, he's up there in age, and the type of player he is, his body's broken down a little bit. So I think that fresh legs in Dobson, he's learned a lot in the past season, like we mentioned before. I think he's ready, and I don't think it's as big of a loss as we think it might be. That being said, JG Pajot was not around for all but 6 games of the regular season. The streakiness might have come from the inconsistency in the lineup. Who's playing on the third line? I don't know. Let's shuffle the lines around. Let's figure out who we're going to. Okay, these guys look good this week. These guys look bad this week. Let's shake it up. That's not going to happen anymore. Pajot gives them an identity on that third line. Now you have Barzal, Nelson, Pajot, Cizikas. The second line is going to stick together. It's going to be Beauvillier. It's going to be Nelson. It's going to be Bailey. that they're going to roll. That the first line, as of right now, is going to be Lee, Barzal, and Eberle. We know that they won when they're on, and we'll talk about this later too, but I think Jordan Eberle has a big year this year because he has some consistency. When those guys are on, they're on. And with the third line now, guys like Wahlstrom, Bellows, Hosang, whoever might be on that third line, will have the opportunity to play with a substantial NHL player, not a who's who of the Islanders' third line this week. I loved it when the Islanders had Filppula for 82 games. He left. That was a great year. We saw the ramifications of when he left, and we signed Brassard. He wasn't as consistent at the center position. They moved him around. Some injuries occurred.
He couldn't take the responsibility.
Right.
That was his problem.
They put him on the wing. That third line center position is a really, really important position. It might not seem like it, but third line center is a really important position to fill. And the fact that we got a top 6 forward playing on the third line is huge, huge.
Yeah.
So
And
now you're going to see, hopefully, because I've been saying this for a long time. When is our young prospect going to break out? Well, you might see it this year because they have someone like Peugeot to play with.
yeah, and I think, and this is a good segue into Timashov,
Yeah,
who the Islanders just traded for, who adds another element of, someone that could kind of slot in on that third line that has been that black hole, as you've said, and someone to play with Peugeot.
Yeah.
But now they have another option, like another option.
Right. So the Islanders received Dmytro Timashov from the Red Wings in exchange for future considerations. I don't know what that might be, but I'll take a player for free for now. He's a 2015 fifth round pick, 125th overall by the Toronto Maple Leafs. He has 39 career games with the Maple Leafs in which he scored four goals and had 5 assists. And then he had another 5 games with the Red Wings, who they claimed him off of waivers on February 24th of 2020. So this was all last year, or last season. That was Timashov's first season in the NHL. Prior to that, he had a pretty good AHL career, a pretty good CHL career. I know his player profile said that he's explosive, he's fast, he's good in his own end, and he's creative with the puck. Ironically, and I tweeted this, I said he kind of sounds like somebody we already have, Mr. Josh Hosang over there. But Steve Dangle chimed in on the trade, and he said that the Islanders are actually getting a really neat player. He's fun. He's a decent power play guy in the AHL. He's got a wicked shot, and he made McDavid look pretty silly on a play last year. Could be better on his own end, but I wonder what Barry Trotz will do with him. Sounds like the perfect player for Barry Trotz to work with, because if he's got some creative offensive skill, he's decent on the power play, which the Islanders desperately need. But he needs a little bit of work in his own end. Well, we know Trotz is the guy to mold a defensive-minded player.
Yeah, I wonder, now trying to think through what can happen on that third line. There's a lot of guys, if we're going to assume for a second that it's either Martin or Johnson on that fourth line, which I have my opinions on. And it's not something that's not easy to say that you don't want Matt Martin around, but I really just want Johnson in the lineup night in, night out. He's got an offensive ability. I want him to play alongside Cizikas. But for that third line, you presumably you have Komarov, you have Del Cole, you have Hosang, you have Wallstrom, who we'll talk about in a second, who's having a heck of a time in Europe. Now, and you have Timashov, and did I say Hosang? It's like there's 5-6 guys for 2 spots. Now, it's easy to kind of shuffle guys around and play in the AHL and taxi squads and things like that, but it's interesting. Maybe Lou is just kind of stocking the AHL, knowing it's not a great. You got to get better players on there so that your guys that are there can, your Otto Koivulas or your whatever, have somebody good to play with, so that their development is not stunted.
Also,
that their confidence is not stunted, so that when they are called up to the NHL, they have some confidence. They can come in and play really well. So if anything, it may just be for things like that.
It's also, you also got to consider the times, right? If there's a taxi squad, he's sure to be on it if he doesn't make the team. You need guys who can keep up. You don't want a brand new. Let's just say there's a breakout in the locker room, and 3 or 4 guys go down. You don't want a guy who has no NHL games playing in game 50, and you're 2-3 points out of the playoffs, and you really need that win. You know what I mean? Yeah. So,
well, that's the good news is they like I said, they have Hosang, Del Cole, Komarov, Wall Street,
and I think
it's a long list, and I feel like there's maybe somebody I'm missing, but
and as much as I say I'd like to see some consistency on that third line, at the same time I'm okay with healthy competition within the organization.
Yeah, but
you want to stick around, right? You want to stick on that third line. You got to play a little better, and that might be the motivation for someone like Josh Hosang to break out. to finally stick.
I hope that they go with a little more speed than grit on that third line, because it would be
Fresh
Pajot is not
approach.
slow, and
Right.
to have multiple lines with speed
Would be
would
outstanding.
it
We
would
said
it
this
would
before.
pose a real problem. Yeah, I think it would pose a real problem for other teams. How, you have to have, sure, you want your best defenseman on Barzal, but you got to have a versatile guy on a line against Pajot, who's
Right.
a battering ram that's also really, really quick. So how do you,
Beauvillier
how to
too.
balance that? It makes it, yeah, and Beauvillier too. So you kind of have a bunch of lines that can move.
Right.
And then late in the game, you can push the pace a little bit. I think it's really important. So, you might be looking there if he is thinking, if Lamorello and Trotz are thinking younger
Yeah.
on the third line, which might be possible. I know they like having Komarov around for the PK. I kind of like him there too. But on a consistent basis, I don't see it. But
one of the more interesting things that I was reading up on Timashov was that he was held back by a logjam of forwards in Toronto, and we know that there was, there's Nylander, Matthews, Marner, there was Kapanen, Janssen, an abundance of forwards there. That there was just a logjam and this guy just couldn't break through. Not to say that he wasn't a good player, and those other guys were maybe a little bit better, but a lot of the critics of this trade were talking about how Timashov on another NHL team probably would have stuck around in the NHL, a little longer than he has already.
yeah,
So
I mean, Toronto also has guys like Nick Robertson. There's
right.
guys coming up, like there were guys just ahead of him in the pecking order too,
Right.
which didn't help.
So he has an opportunity here. He's most likely a middle six guy, but he has an opportunity here to maybe staple himself into the NHL and make a name for himself. So do you have any expectations for Timashov? Do you know anything about him as far as maybe how he'll contribute this year?
I hope he, like you said, just kind of pushes that competition for the third line.
Yeah.
They have enough there. I mean, there's two spots. So you assume that Komarov is maybe just a healthy scratch, and then you got two other guys. So there's a 50% chance he's just on the roster. Right. Like,
yeah,
I wouldn't and then it's you kind of have a better, you have a 66% chance that you're going to be playing in a game if it's
right.
you and two other guys. So might just be depending on who they're playing against and all of that. He does have experience. He is really good. I don't know Trotz and Lamorello's history about giving guys a shot, and a young guy at that.
If there was ever a year, though,
if there was ever, you want to think that, but you're dealing with guys that have just been in the league for as long as they have. I don't know. I wonder what it takes to actually change them.
yeah,
Because it's not like, it took drastic measures to have, did Dobson play a game in the playoffs?
one.
What? It took like the team kind of teetering a little bit for him to, and he was with the team all year.
Right.
He's he's the highest rated, whatever prospect you want to call, younger players the Islanders have. So I wonder, I'm the most curious. I almost don't care if it's an Anthony Duclair coming in or whatever the deal is. I'm just curious of like who's going to make that roster and who is in the mix to even be on that line. That's
yeah.
So I don't have any expectations necessarily for him. I kind of want to see it on paper. I just want to see the three players that are in the mix. That's like,
boy, I tell you,
okay, this is going to work or it's not going to work.
That first staple tweet with the lineups and warm-ups is going to be,
oh my God,
a sight for sore eyes, man.
So it's gonna. No one's gonna like it because if it's Timashov,
no,
it's gonna be and I think if I had to guess what you wanted, it's I don't know. I might get this wrong. So I say Timashov, Pajot, Wahlstrom is what you want.
Oh my God, it's like you're in my head.
If I had to guess, now I'm of the mind like, all right, give Ho-Sang his shot before Timashov. I think
So
Hosang has more NHL experience than that. I say,
it's pretty even. I think that actually, I think Timashov
oh wait, Timashov might have more.
has
39
an
games.
edge. Yeah, he's got
So,
like
all right.
maybe 10 more.
Okay, it's close, but Hosang's kind of paid his due in this organization.
However, I think Hosang has more points.
It's possible.
So it's a give and take.
If I had to do it, and we can wave a magic wand, and Komarov just is his money, whatever. He's just not on the roster. I'd pit Timashov and Hosang against each other in camp. To look, we're gonna add some speed and some younger
Skill.
talent on that line, and we need and that kind of just assumes Wahlstrom is ready. I just doubt that it's two young guys, frankly.
I tend to agree.
I see one young guy. I don't hate Komarov, Pajot, and Wahlstrom. It's not my favorite thing, but I don't hate that.
I tend to agree.
I think it's just you hope Wahlstrom, and I'm just going to steal your next line. You hope that the momentum that he had in Europe, 10 games, 8 points, you hope it comes back and he takes that momentum into camp and is just better than everybody because he just has been on the ice in competition. He's in a different headspace. He's in game ready, season ready mode. And you hope that's an advantage. I wonder if teams with players that played in Europe will have an advantage versus those who had less. I think I've thought about that as this kind of gone on, and now they're calling players back and leagues in Europe are hitting pause. But I wonder if that's the X factor for Wahlstrom making the roster, just simply having been playing at some, competitive level. But I wouldn't hate Wahlstrom, Pajot, Komarov, or throw in Timashov there or whatever the deal is. I just hope someone clicks with Pajot. And Komarov looks like he's just slow out there sometimes. I know he's good on the PK, but I don't know. I don't love it. I don't know. I'm just interested to see, like I said.
I'm going to get back to this in 1 second. I want to just get to something that just came up. Want to say congratulations to Oscar Lindbaum. He is officially cancer-free. That is amazing news. Just, a little more than 1 year after he was diagnosed with it. Congratulations.
And coming back in the playoffs.
And he came back in the playoffs. So congratulations to Oscar Lindbaum. That officially cancer-free. I have chills right now because that's kind of crazy to me that it happened that fast. And it's just, I remember the video of him ringing the bell after his final treatment. That was, great news. Then, and this is even better news now, officially cancer-free, Oscar Lindbaum. Congratulations. Looking forward to, watching you play for the Flyers again.
Hell of a player.
All right. So sorry, getting back to the whole Timashov third line ordeal. You stole the thought out of my brain. I would like to see, maybe some healthy competition between him and Hosang for that left wing spot. Wahlstrom is naturally a right winger. I would love to see him play at his natural position with Pajot there. Now, do I think that that's going to happen? No, I tend to agree with you. I could easily see that opening night lineup on the third line being Dal Cole, Pajot, and Komarov. Bank on it. I would hide $1,000 down on that right now. It's going to happen.
That's miserable.
It is. But
I hate that I want to give up on Dal Cole.
But tell me they won't win 3-2. They will. It's just...
Yeah, but...
I don't want that.
Why not be better? Like, what a novel concept. Like, put your best players out there. You're like, I understand playing it safe. I get that. I like that they win. They play defensive game. I'm not even concerned about that. But, like, you have an opportunity to put some players out there that are exciting.
So, devil's advocate here. Yes. I do think, and I wouldn't be surprised if they played it safe. I also have this funny feeling that this is the year to try it. And I know that, we've said in the past, but they're, they stick to their guns. It takes a lot for them. I just feel like this is the constricted with money. They might not sign someone in free agency. Maybe at the trade deadline they'll figure something out. But right now they are so desperate for someone to come in and unexpectedly break out, or they're so desperate for someone to come in, period, that maybe it does happen from within. We've already seen the vow of confidence in Dobson. I don't know how high they place someone like Wahlstrom in terms of readiness. I don't know, honestly, what their assessment of Josh Hosang is right now. What I do know is that they, like I've said in the past, brought Hosang back for a reason, just traded for Timashov for a reason, made sure Wahlstrom got his reps in overseas for a reason, recalled him back to North America because they're expecting to start soon for a reason. I think that it's possible that third line might look a little different than what we're used to.
I think so. And so I'm just looking at this because I had the thought the other day, and I think I don't know why I didn't look it up. Timashov is not signed.
So
he's an RFA.
That was going to be
so
my other
that's
thought. He's an RFA.
And that doesn't mean anything. And they may have. I mean, look, he was picked up for future considerations. I don't know if that's a 7th round pick. I don't know ultimately what that means. It maybe is nothing. It just goes away. I'm not sure how that works. Maybe he's an asset. I don't know. I mean, they just got him for nothing. So how much could he be worth? That's a different problem.
Right.
But then you got to find money for him too. And that's kind of my issue is you got guys that are signed already. What are you doing? You can't bring a guy in and then Matt Martin's definitely gone. If Timashov's coming on and there wasn't really money for Martin to begin with, it sure shit isn't now.
Again, and this is me, grabbing out of thin air. Do we not know something? Again, is Komarov on his way out? Is Andrew Ladd on his way to LTIR?
I mean,
did the money get freed up somewhere?
If Ladd even just is in the AHL again, they save $1.5 million.
Also that, right.
So, but that was just to bring on Andy Green. Right. Like there's guys in the lineup that kind of need their money still. That they have a handshake. And this isn't Corey Schneider because that's that'll be an AHL deal and not on the cap. But yeah, there's that's kind of my problem is sure you can, free it up here and there, but it means, you still got to get Andy Green's contract. You still got to get Barzal. You got to make sure Ladd isn't around. Is Timashov the pickup that you want? Like, there's no way that if you're going to pay, listen, I don't know. I don't understand. I don't know why you don't go out there and just sign Duclair or something.
If this was a depth,
why this?
This was a depth move.
I don't. Sure, maybe.
They're gonna. I think a major factor is the whole, COVID situation. You don't know who you're going to lose and when you're going to lose them to this. People cannot be sick. They could just have a symptom and they're going to be quarantined and held out for X amount of time. So this was probably strictly just a depth move. And they probably have a decent idea that they can probably get him in on a 2-way contract, maybe at a year.
Yeah, they probably. I mean, he's only had those types of deals. He's never made more than $1 million.
So, and he doesn't really have much to negotiate for. He can't be like, oh, I scored 4 goals and had 5 assists in 39 games. I should make $1 million a year. Okay, pal, we got you for nothing. So we'll just and a stipulation too is that if he doesn't sign, he doesn't get to play until 2024. There's a stipulation to this trade, and I'm going to look it up now, but I'm pretty sure if he goes and signed, they have his rights until something like 2024 via cap friendly. I'm just pulling it up as we speak, but the deal here is if New York does not sign Timashov for 2020-21 season, he will still remain on their reserve list until July 1st, 2024. I don't know why, but the incentive here is likely for him. Okay, well, I want to play. And if I don't play, I'm not going to make money, so I might as well make as much as I can. So
yeah, he's probably, like I said earlier, someone to play in the AHL with as maybe a taxi squad guy, but someone to play with Koivula or something like that.
But he has some skill, and it's possible that he could contribute. So it's really a win-win. We traded you for nothing. You're a depth guy, and if you happen to find your legs, awesome. We just got you. That's great.
Sure. Yeah, it could work.
Yeah. As we previously mentioned, Oliver Wahlstrom returns from to North America. He was playing over in Sweden with the AIK in the Hockey Allsvenskan league, Sweden's second highest professional league. And in 10 games, he had 4 goals and 4 assists. One goal in particular, I remember him scoring very pretty, really good goal.
Right after he came back from injury.
Right after he came back, yeah. So that was a good sign. He seems to be recovered from that injury scare. It looked a lot worse than it actually was, so that's good news. He's back healthy and looking to, make the team at a camp. So let's keep our fingers crossed that actually happens. The thing about him is I watched him when he was going into the draft, and when he was drafted, his shot was already ready for the NHL. It was just everything else that needed to catch up. So once he was ready to go, he's going to score goals, man. He's good with the puck. He just needs a little bit more defensive awareness, but he's close. I think he
looked pretty good with the Islanders.
Yeah.
So I think it might be his year. Like I said, that there's an opportunity there for somebody, at least one.
Right.
So it depends on who that is.
So yeah, we'll see. Moving on, the Islanders are, like we said earlier, in the quote-unquote Eastern Division. That division now consists of most of the Metro, minus Columbus and Carolina, plus Boston and Buffalo, right? So we'll talk about this in a little bit, as far as what I wrote in my article a couple days ago. But I'll ask you first, what teams are you most worried about heading into the season? Because, it looks like we might be playing each team a couple more times than usual over a 56-game schedule within our divisions. Who gives the Islanders the most trouble? And I feel like we're going to agree, but I don't know, surprise me.
I think the issue is that the teams that are good in this division all play really similarly. So I think, Boston is probably the top of everyone's mind, but Boston and Philly play pretty heavy. So to have another team like Philly to have to get through, and then on top of just the pure skill with Pittsburgh and the Capitals now have, Samsonov and Lundqvist. So they had Holtby, but Lundqvist is still a good goalie, and under a shorter schedule, the better team in front of him, I bet he plays pretty well.
Yeah,
I'm not betting against him. I'm not going to take his last few seasons in New York as anything. So 56 games against with 6-7 teams, you're playing each of them quite a bit.
Yeah. So I wrote the 12 days of hockey missed, day 12, Islanders edition. The first day of the 12 days, I started with a wish list. What do I wish, or Islander fans as a whole should wish happens? And I put a number of points in there. You want a forward prospect breakout because that's something we've been craving for a long time. You want increased power play production because, let's face it, our power play stinks. You want Beauvillier and Eberle consistency, right? Because we saw what Beauvillier could do in the bubble. You really hope that happens again. when the season starts. You hope he can sustain that kind of production and that kind of success. I think his goal total, Bavillier's goal total in the bubble, that production over a 82 game season averaged out to something like 33 goals a year. And the last time the Islanders had a 30 goal scorer was when Tavares was with the team. He and Anders Lee, who scored 40 that year, were the last 30 goal scorers. Since then, we haven't had one. Brock Nelson was on a 30 goal pace this year, but it would be nice to have two. You know, we don't have any right now. So
wasn't the last guy to score 40 goals Jason Blake?
No, it was Anders Lee.
No, like before that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Was there somebody?
I think it was Jason Blake. So, but that's what I'm talking about.
Go look it up on Twitter if you don't, or on YouTube for
tweet it at us if we misspoke. But
yeah, or that. But I'm saying go check that out. That's how long ago. That's not that many.
Right, and that's how few there have been. That it's like, oh, it was Anders Lee, and then I think Jason Blake. The Islanders are desperate for goal scoring, and if Bavillier can keep that kind of pace, 33 goals, sign me up. You really want a Dobson, but these are the 5 most important points. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. A Dobson breakout, you really need that to happen because there was a big loss on the blue line.
You need to not have him not be a liability. A breakout would be great. I'm good with just not being a liability.
I'm good with that.
Love him to start producing and look really good out there.
Okay, I'll agree with that.
Just don't suck. I hate to boil it down to that. No, I don't think so either. But
I don't think he will.
I'll start there. Go through 10 games without being a dash 150, and fine.
But I think the most important thing of the 12 items on that wish list that I wrote was to beat Boston. The record that the Islanders have against Boston since 2003, I believe, they have 3 wins against Boston. That's
and when you're playing 9 games or so against each team,
brutal
under a short period of time.
The Bruins have the Islanders number. It's not good. When I saw Boston was coming into the same division as the Islanders, I was a little worried, and I'm still a little worried. They haven't re-signed Zdeno Chara, but I don't know that if they don't bring him back, he's going to be missed there, but he's inching closer to 41, maybe 42, maybe 43.
Yeah, he's up.
He's up there. So he's not on the ice. That difference. It's Pasternak. It's Bergeron. It's Marsh.
Krug isn't there.
No, but who did they bring in?
They did bring in somebody. I was hoping you remembered.
They brought somebody in, and I can't remember who it is. But the bottom line is that, listen, look at the Hockey News power rankings that we put before. Boston's in the top 5. They just consistently are always very good at the top of the league. They consistently always beat up the Islanders. And if the Islanders are going to take a step forward this year, I know they took a couple steps forward in the past couple of years, but if they're really going to certify themselves as one of the best teams in the league, it's not going to be one of those nights where it's like, oh, we're playing Boston, chalk it up to an L. No, it's got to be, all right, we're playing Boston. This is going to be a good game. Either side could win. It's imperative. The Islanders, if they're going to take that step, they need to get on the same level as the Boston Bruins. And a number of things that I put on that list as far as, Eberle having consistency, that's going to be a huge factor. Even an honorable mention to having Boychuk hired within, right? That wasn't part of my top 5, but it would be 6. Boychuk needs to stay around. He's getting paid, so make him do something. Put him on the bench. Put him on the ice during practice. Make sure he's in the locker room as much as possible because he needs to be in those guys' ears. I don't know what it is that they have to do with him, but they need to make sure he's around. Those are the most important points of what I wrote. You hope that those things happen. It's going to take a lot for the stars to align to make all of that happen, but
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's streaky, and a lot of these players played really well during that 17 game point streak.
Yeah.
So if they can find a rhythm early, and they did, to their credit, and something that we should be keeping our eyes out for, like losses aside and all that kind of stuff, that the majority of the team is still there.
Yeah.
And they seem pretty stable. Not a lot's gonna throw them off track. They did come into the bubble, have a very 1 or 2 weeks of camp, and then jump in and play really well. So
Yeah.
not a lot of teams didn't do that. A majority of the teams did play in that preliminary round. And, it's possible the Islanders jump into the season and start just playing really well right off the hop. Whatever the difference is on Long Island or with the team, they could just play really well. So I don't know that I'm necessarily worried about that just because of what they did earlier this year. But we'll have to I'll just see. Definitely agree with all that though.
Yeah. I think that just about wraps it up for us this week, John. It was awesome being back on again. I feel like it's been forever, but we won't see you guys again until next time we record is actually going to be Sunday, December 27th, because as of right now, we're still on the every other week schedule. I'll be going to Florida on December 28th, so the 27th we'll get our recording in, and it'll drop either that Monday or Tuesday, or maybe we'll keep it Wednesday like we always do. But thank you for everyone, or to everyone, for listening right now. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to the show. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Nassaumen Hockey, and follow our work at the Hockey Writers. I just released a Ilya Sorokin article today, 10 accolades that he has that you might not know about, which makes him this quote unquote mega prospect. John, you have an article releasing tomorrow, no?
Yes, the top 9 Barzal plays. He scored some crazy goals. I thought it was going to be out today, as in Tuesday, but I was wrong. I got it done earlier than I thought, so it was scheduled for later.
So it actually will be out today as you're listening to this. So
today, as in your today, future listener.
Yeah, go ahead and read it. But other than that, you can support the show by picking up some NHP merch. It is the holidays, so if you want to give one of your family members or friends or something a nice gift, you can check out our website where we have our merch. And you can donate through our Patreon to keep the show going, to receive some great newsletters that we've been working on. Our third one will be dropping this Friday, the 18th. So sign up to get start getting it every week. Last week's was packed with a ton of information. You get a little bit more personable with me, John, Joe, and our editor Lauren. It's been really fun. It's been going really well. We've had a couple of you sign up already, and we're really thankful for that. But that being said, until next time, everybody, let's go.